it was just somewhat timely because I knew exactly what product I wanted to use, which partner I wanted to implement it with, and how I wanted it to work.
Welcome to ERP on Tap, your steady flow of everything you want to know about NetSuite and Acumatica, the podcast where we dive into practical tips, expert insights, and real-world examples, exploring the tools, tips, and tricks you need to make your business processes flow like never before. Welcome to ERP on Tap. I'm your host, Jonathan McKee. Super stoked today as we address one of the questions that many of you have asked yourselves, and if you're currently evaluating ERPs, it might be the key question to ask, and that's why NetSuite? So today we'll ask that question to one of our customers, RJ Sparks, President and CEO of Trinity Solar, one of the nation's largest residential solar providers with more than 2,500 employees across 9 states. I knew RJ when he was one of our previous customers, and when he moved to Trinity Solar just a couple of years ago, he reached out to us and said, "We need NetSuite." Let's dig in now and find out why. RJ, thanks so much for joining ERP on Tap.
You're welcome, Jonathan. It's great to see you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, when you're not helping Trinity Solar grow and thrive, what are you doing for fun?
Oh man, the best days are when I'm spending a lot of time with the family. So we have this tradition we call Friday night family movie night. So probably, cool. I bet you 48, if not 49 Fridays out of a year, we're together, we have dinner at home, and it's just us, just the 4 of us, and we're watching a movie. It's funny because, my kids are 2 boys, 11 and 12, and they like more contemporary movies. Kate and I, we're older, so we love Back to the Future and Goonies and Indiana Jones and all those movies. And it's amazing how much more slowly they think these movies run for them compared to what we're used to. But usually some movie stuff. We like to adventure, which sometimes means travel, and we love to cook together. Yeah, just standard stuff that families like to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually have, revealing a little bit about my age, I have a grandson, 5 years old, and we've been slowly introducing them we just watched E.T. last weekend. And so our first time seeing E.T. So it was interesting, again, seeing rather dated, but, through his eyes, it was kind of fresh. So that's cool.
Yeah, good ones.
Well, good to hear. Tell us a little bit, our guests here might not know anything about Trinity Solar. Tell us, what should we know about Trinity Solar?
Yes, thank you. Incredible company. So been around for over 30 years. It's top 3 residential solar contractors in the United States, top 10 roofing re-roof contractors in the United States, headquartered in the Northeast in a town called Wall, New Jersey, and does a business in about 10 states out here. So incredible company, great legacy. And I've been here for about 1.5 years now, trying to continue that legacy and working with one of the founders, Tommy, and some of our new private equity partners, THG Consumer, who are amazing partners, and just continue to invest in this business and make it the best version of itself that it can be.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, you've obviously, you're not new to this. You're not new to managing businesses and helping them grow. What was it when you got to Trinity Solar that, what were the pain points you noticed there that they were experiencing, in essence, you were experiencing as soon as you got there, that made you realize, okay, we need a new ERP system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think for me, when I got here, one of the opportunities, even leading up to, my start here at Trinity, was a discussion about how to continue to invest in its infrastructure. And of course, one of those columns inevitably becomes ERP. And because of some of the work that we've done in the past, it was just somewhat timely because I knew exactly what product I wanted to use, which partner I wanted to implement it with, and how I wanted it to work. And so it really worked out, really worked out well in that regard.
No, that's good. That's very good. Well, why did that end up going towards NetSuite? And that might not mean your first time here. Maybe it was the first time when you were choosing, because I know when you got to Trinity, you're like, okay, I had NetSuite, I like it, let's get it again. But maybe that first time you were making that decision, there's other ERP choices out there. I mean, why not Microsoft? Why not some other ERP? What drew you to NetSuite?
Sure. Yeah. So back at Semper, the prior company that gave us a chance to work together, it was interesting. We did a fairly fulsome analysis of of which products we wanted to use. We knew it needed to be web-based. We knew it needed to be able to contemplate a large number of transactions in our line of business. Every year, just hundreds of thousands of records created because there's so many employees. All the work is job costed. So the punches just create so much detail. My general perspective is I want to bring all that detail into the system and then use reporting to simplify it as opposed to be sensitive about how much data you put in the system. And so we actually were pursuing Dynamics, I think it was called Dynamics 365, for a few months with a different partner before we met you. And what wasn't really made clear up front, and this was a number of years ago, what wasn't really made clear up front was that product wasn't ready. And there was a lot still coming together with that product. And so that became apparent to us a little bit of the ways into the process. And at that point, we said, we got to go back to the well. And we'd all heard a lot about NetSuite. And so we said, we need to pursue NetSuite, find a great partner for it. And that's what connected us, which was great. Interestingly, Jonathan, when I got here, the team was already underway with a search. And they were looking at a lot of different products, including SAP, including Dynamics again, et cetera. And it was such a funny experience because and everyone's been in this position before. When you're doing a search, you may not know what good looks like. The presentations are very conceptual. There's pictures of beautiful dashboards and analytics and things like that. They can be like very intoxicating and very attractive or drawing. But it really, really helped that in the same industry, in the same use case, with the same desired outcomes, I had within the past few years, run a similar project with you and the team. So I spent a few hours with the consultants that were helping us just identify the right ERP fits potentially. And they didn't have a bunch of industry experience, or they had worked with our private equity partners on a few other projects. And I was able to clarify pretty quickly that NetSuite was the right product for the following reasons and what it would be able to bring us just through tried and true experience as opposed to conceptual feedback from a consultant. So it was interesting. Those are some of the reasons that helped us find NetSuite to begin with in a prior life, and then some of the reasons that it worked again so well here at Trinity.
That's great. I remember that. We remember getting that call. It's always nice when we have a customer who sometimes people sometimes transition and go to different companies. So when you went there and then reached out to us, we were flattered. We thought that was great. It was very exciting. And let me just ask our listeners real quick. Listeners, some of you have been on searches. You've had good experiences, bad experiences. Some you found that were great and some that you even returned to. Tell us about those. Jump in the comment section. We want to hear from you. And while you're in there, feel free to hit that like button if you're liking this conversation, and all that stuff gets the algorithm going. And we like that. So thank you for being one of the listeners on ERP on Tap. Continuing the conversation with RJ Sparks here. I'm curious, RJ, so when you moved from the old system to the new system, let's speak specifically here with your experience with Trinity. What was the immediate impact? You're now on NetSuite. What was the stuff you noticed right away?
Yes. Off the top of my head, much faster closes, more confidence to be able to maintain the system, and just a more exciting line of sight to what the future could hold. So interestingly enough, for Trinity and even for Semper, we were running on QuickBooks Enterprise. Both companies were running on QuickBooks Enterprise before they moved over to NetSuite. And in Enterprise, it's a great system for a company up to a certain point, but it eventually becomes somewhat limiting. And when we moved over as just a part of the migration, we tried to replicate as much as we could, but at the same time have a battle plan for immediately after go live what we wanted to do to evolve the system. What I found is it's easier to move from apples to apples and then try to make them into oranges once you get into kind of like the harbor, safe footing, and you're kind of landed on NetSuite. So the team was closing quarterly on a monthly basis. They weren't doing much of a hard close. They were closing on a quarterly basis, and it was taking about a month. And we have it down to about 10 days hard close on a monthly basis now, which is great. So I'll get my financial reporting 10 to 12 days. At Semper, similarly, the close was taking longer. We did monthly closes at Semper, and they were probably taking 3 weeks. I think now at Semper, or at least when I left, we were closing in about 5 days, and then we were getting some like analytics and interesting reporting out a few days later. So significant improvements on that front. There's also just a lot of improvements on like the warehouse management side of the business and what I call warehouse ops, which is wonderful. And then for our types of businesses, they're fairly transactional, like I shared a little bit earlier. So there's a lot of data coming in and out of the system. And with NetSuite, the ability to have simultaneous threads of imports pushing into the system from a variety of different data sources has just added a lot of efficiency to the team. So excited about those improvements we've been able to make. And going forward, a lot of what's on the team's mind, and in the spirit of improvements, is the AI lens that the NetSuite has that potentially could introduce itself into the team and the way we work here. So excited not only for what we built, but certainly what we will build in the future.
That's good. That's really good. I appreciate those specifics. I mean, talking about even the specifics of days it takes to close now. That's great, because I think some people sometimes really want that. Okay, what's this going to do specifically? What percentage? So thanks for putting numbers to that. You talked about getting to that go live and stuff. Let's just take a moment real quick. How was implementation? I think a lot of people, when it comes to an ERP, they're scared of that transition period. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff happening there, right? Data migration and all. How was the implementation process, honestly, for you?
It was good. It was good in both senses. Obviously, having been through it once as a team, I think your folks and my folks, they probably had more shorthand and familiarity, than they would have had they not. But even at Semper, it was great. Now, it can be scary, as you put it, but it should really just be respected, right? It doesn't have to be scary, but there should be an appreciation that there's going to be change, and we have to really think through how much change do we want to introduce as a part of this transition versus how much change can we introduce post implementation. It's probably the most important thing that I've seen. I've done a few of these. That's probably the most important thing that I see people overlook. A lot of people try to reinvent their business as a part of the implementation, and I typically don't like to do that. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but for me, what I like to do is take the same chart of accounts and bring it directly over. I like to take the processes that the system intends you to use and try to embrace those. Every piece of software has a way it wants to be used. And a lot of times a company will take, the processes it has to support its legacy piece of software, like a QuickBooks Enterprise, and replicate those on the new software because that's what the team is used to. I wouldn't recommend that, and that's something we stayed away from. Other companies try to reinvent or innovate, how they want things to work. Maybe one of the partners is like fairly liberal about all the possibilities because they're completing a sales cycle is in addition to an implementation, and so I've seen that go wrong. But we with the team, we already knew how does NetSuite want to be used, and the team embraced that. We moved over with the same chart of accounts, but then on day 2 of go live, you already have mapped out what you want the new chart of accounts to be, and then you just book a lot of reclass entries on day 2, and all of a sudden you have your new chart of accounts, but you have your old one too at day 1. So you have your migration trial balance, you have your new trial balance. Everybody's happy because you didn't try to push too much into the implementation, and it worked out well for the team. We the second time around, the implementation, I think we had roughly a 90 or 120 day implementation, which was a fairly aggressive pace.
I was going to say that's aggressive.
Yeah, it was real fast. Especially, Trinity, we're about a $700 million company, decentralized across a lot of different offices. So with a bunch of different warehouses, we probably have about 15 warehouses under management, a lot of different sales teams, et cetera. And it went really, really well. The stabilization, I think, lasted probably a couple of weeks, and team's on the system. But the number one bit of advice I gave to the team as we were going through this, at least on my side, and that I would stick to is you got to keep the implementation as simple as possible. Don't try to put too much in it. You have plenty of time post-implementation. Once, as I like to say, you get the ship in the harbor, then you can do all the work you want on the ship. But when you're sailing and you got big waves and high seas, you don't want to be working on the ship at that time, right? Get into the harbor, make it
That's
safe,
good.
stabilize everything, and then do all the exciting things you want to do.
Good. Again, really good specifics, because I think of so many times I hear customers asking those exact questions, things that they're, and I'll use that same word again, scared about, right? As they're looking at a system like this, and some of it is how long the implementation is going to take, or how much do I use what we do well already, combined with the leading practices built in the system. So thanks for those specifics of your experience there. That's good stuff. I think people will appreciate that. Um,
You bet.
you mentioned a lot of different things that NetSuite's helping you do. If somebody were to just ask you, maybe the elevator talk, oh, you're on NetSuite, really? What helps you the most? What do you like the most out of it? If you were to nail one thing that you think is the big thing that you get the most out of NetSuite, what do you think that would be?
To be honest with you, probably the reporting. Like, what I love about NetSuite, so we run Salesforce also as our CRM. NetSuite, we just use the ERP functionality for. And what I love about NetSuite, kind of like Salesforce for any Salesforce users out there that may be watching this, is it's fairly extendable. So for a company like ours, there are custom fields, there are workflows, there are a variety of things that are just meaningful to our business, and being able to transact in a way that it has a rich enough level of data that we can bring it back out to cause our consumers of that data to have insight and a great experience. And I love that about NetSuite. It has a great out of the box version, but there are things we could do to tailor it to the nuances that are alive and kicking in my business. And so I really like being able to have very, very clear reporting on my line of business P&Ls, my geographic P&Ls, by state, by office, my departmental P&Ls. And then for us, we do tens and tens of thousands of projects for customers every year. So getting down to that project level, so I can see for a project, what does my gross profit or gross margin look like on the project? How much of that was from payroll, and being able to click into down to the punch level, like where did that come from? Same thing on my materials, same thing on my billing, my
Yeah, you
AP.
can
So
drill into
that
that. Yeah.
visibility that we can click into, as long as a customer is willing to create data at that level of detail, then it's really, really fantastic to be able to get it out at that same level of detail. Not that you need to look at it at that level of detail, but you can at least get down into it from a summary level if you want to really understand what's going on with your business. So that's been phenomenal, and it's not exactly NetSuite, but there's a real benefit to all the integrations that NetSuite has with different products. There's a product called Solution 7 that we use that helps a lot with reporting for any shops that really enjoy Excel and being able to set up in Excel reporting packages and things like that. Um, NetSuite has a lot of great integrations, and Solution 7 has been an amazing one for us that we also used at Semper, but use here at Trinity as well.
Good. Man, you touched on a lot of stuff, because reporting is huge, but that integration piece is something NetSuite does play pretty well with others. And so it's nice to know that. A follow-up on your reporting question. Our consultants say this all the time, and you just kind of touched on it. Let me just dig into it. Our consultants will say that NetSuite is very easy to use and very configurable. And one of the things we do during implementation is we try to not just set up the dashboards and reports you want to see, but we try to teach you how to fish. And the first time around, hopefully we showed you, hey, look, you can make these reports yourself. Maybe you can even start with this out of the box report and add to it. In all honesty, did you find that true? Do you mess with the reports all the time? Do you make your own? Was that
Absolutely.
easy for you?
It is. It's interesting because I've seen different people go live on the system, and you have different types of users. Some users are highly curious and
Mhm.
really excitable to be able to control some things, and some users maybe get a little more anxious, and they're worried about breaking something, or they don't want to learn something new because the system can seem, as you pointed out, scary. It doesn't need to be, but it's changed. So different people process change
Yep.
differently.
Change is scary. Yeah, more than the
It can
system.
be
Yeah.
for some folks. And what I've found is that users who are curious really, really thrive, because there's so much that somebody can do with NetSuite. It gives you all the keys you need to unlock it and get the data out that you want, as long as you're willing to learn how to do it. And it's not even that steep of a learning curve. So it was really, really empowering for a lot of our folks to have the capabilities that the NetSuite provides a user to be able to develop and design, their and then modify over time their own reporting.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, listen, this has been great. This has been phenomenal. I want to ask you one other question because,
Sure.
believe it or not, Oracle is listening. You seem to have a really good grasp of the system, and you use it in a lot of different ways. If there's one thing, and you actually even touched on one earlier, but let me just kind of ask you to maybe drill in on one. If there was one thing that you'd love to see from NetSuite in the future, you're like, man, I love NetSuite, but my gosh, I wish it finish that. What do you wish would be next for NetSuite?
Yeah, I think whatever it can do to lean into AI in the same way the rest of us are trying to, it'd be really, really helpful. So right now, for example, I'm having a conversation with our FP&A team around the decks that come out on a monthly basis, around like our we call them the MBRs, monthly business reviews, and we're looking into Claude by Anthropic, and we're thinking about NetSuite. And what I'm telling the gang is that um, this can be produced by an agent or by AI, including a lot of the analytics. We do it less formally right now. For a lot of our analysis, we'll just push different decks and different learnings, into enterprise open AI or Claude. And it has tremendous insight. It will do an extensive amount of documentation and even rework some of our information tables and things like that. I'd love to see from NetSuite a proliferation of that capability so that we didn't have to go outside of that product to use other products to do things with NetSuite information. Instead, I'd love to stay in NetSuite, do all of those things, and then pull it out and have NetSuite be really the engine behind a lot of that.
Good. That's cool. And did you? I don't even actually know the answer to this question. I'm asking a question I don't know the answer to. That can be scary in itself. But have you seen the little AI tool in NetSuite that Portello developed?
I haven't yet.
Okay, we'll have to chat afterwards. I'll send that over to you, and for listeners, we'll put the link to that in the chat as well. Some of you saw that previous podcast with Eddie on our tech team who talked a little bit about that. But good stuff coming from Oracle and from Portello on the AI front with NetSuite. So, RJ, really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much, especially for those specifics. I think our listeners are going to find great benefit from that. Thanks for being here.
Jonathan, it's my pleasure. Thanks for all the partnership over many years. It's been great working with Portello. I couldn't say enough nice things about your organization, and real pleasure to do the podcast with you. So thanks for the invitation.
Well, we appreciate that too. And listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. If you found value in this, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If this is your first time, jump in the comments. If you're a NetSuite user yourself, tell us, what is it that's helped you? What is it that you like? What is it that you hope to see in the future? If you're just shopping around, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'd like to get those answered for you. And as always, we hope to see you again next time on ERP on Tap.